It was an ugly outing by Lance Lynn and an ugly loss for the Chicago White Sox as they were embarrassed for the second time in 3 days by the San Francisco Giants. Sox pitching gave up 5 home runs on Thursday afternoon and a total of 13 home runs in the series. White Sox have to flush another lopsided loss as they start a 3-game series against the Pittsburgh Pirates on Friday with Lucas Giolito on the mound.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our Chicago White Sox are now 3-4, a minus 16 run differential. Game 7 of the season. White Sox absolutely embarrassed 16-6. I unfortunately was in attendance. I don't know. I was there for the home opener. That was an ugly loss. I was there on Thursday. That was also bad. I might have to take a break next time they come back to the South Side. White Sox lost the series and were outscored 31-16. Not the type of baseball you wanted to start the season with on the South Side. That was a horrible first impression for the hometown fans. One of their greatest strengths, perhaps, starting pitching, it turned into one of their greatest weaknesses. It was pretty ugly on Thursday afternoon. Lance Lynn's thoughts after the first start of the season against Houston. This is what he had to say last week. I was able to make some pitches. I was missing early on. I thought some pitches were close, but they were off. I was able to fine-tune it as I went, and I made one big mistake on the last pitch. You don't go 6 innings. You don't do your job as a starter. I didn't do my job tonight, and it cost us the game. Lance Lynn did not do his job on Thursday afternoon either. First inning, Lance Lynn gave up a 2-strike, 2-out, 3-run home run to Michael Conforto. The more pitches you see, the more dangerous you become as a player, as a team. The San Francisco Giants saw 31 pitches in that first inning from Lance Lynn. In the second, Lynn issued a home run to Seby, then a double to Wade. Those were back-to-back, all with 2 outs. Again, it was 4-0 San Francisco early. 44 pitches for Lance Lynn after the second. Third, it was pretty clean, but he's got 30 pitches on his arm after 3 innings. In the fourth, Lance Lynn gave up a 2-out base hit to Jock Peterson with the bases loaded. That scored 2, 6-2 San Francisco. It continued in the fifth. Lynn gave up a bomb to Yastrzemski. It was 91 miles per hour, middle, and that got absolutely destroyed out in right field. Lynn taken out, couldn't get through the fifth. It was 8-3 Giants at that point. Bullpen didn't really help out. In the sixth, Ruiz came in. He gave up a 2-run home run. It was just a home run parade for the Giants all series long. Santos made a mess of the eighth inning, and for the second time in 2 games, the White Sox were able to use a position player to pitch, which is a terrible sign of how things are going. Hanser Alberto was the man again. We might as well keep track at this point. He is a 21.60 ERA. He definitely didn't make the club to clean up messes as a position player pitching, but that is what he has done 2 out of 3 games. Velocity for Lance Lynn wasn't great. When I'm usually attending games, I'll record the game or I'll make sure I go back and watch some replays so I get a better idea. Sometimes the angles, obviously, you just can't see what they were throwing, what the velocity was, and I went back and I looked at some of these balls that were hit out of the ballpark, or hit for an RBI. They were 89, 90, 91 miles per hour. They were not competitive pitches. He did not have that type of movement that he had from Houston. It caught a lot of the plate. His breaking stuff, he's got that cut. He's got the cut fastball, different varieties. He had the changeup going on. It was breaking into the zone, right into a hitter's swing path. That cut fastball did not have the movement he had from the previous start. And when that's happening, I mean, you don't have to be tipping your pitches. The way the San Francisco Giants swing the bat, they have uppercut swings. They swing for power. They demonstrated it in this series. We didn't help them out much, but wow, Lynn was definitely off. You got to be, your cut fastball and your breaking ball stuff has to be diving out of the zone, not into the zone where they can mash it. Lynn went 4 1/3 innings, 9 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, gave up 3 home runs, 99 pitches. His ERA right now is 9.00. This is what Lynn said after the game. When we made mistakes, they made it hurt. That will happen. Unfortunately, it happens during your first homestand, so that sucks. We have to make better pitches, quality pitches, and that's something we are very capable of doing. I wasn't good. There's no way to sugarcoat it. All in all, it was a piss poor day. Bullpen, 4 2/3 innings, 11 hits, 8 earned runs from the bullpen on Thursday afternoon, a couple of walks, 4 strikeouts, and 2 home runs. The White Sox issued 13 home runs to the Giants during this homestand, historically bad. Through their first 7 games of the season, the White Sox have allowed 15 home runs. It's a franchise record for the most home runs allowed through the team's first 7 games of a season. As a team, the White Sox have a 6.93 ERA, which puts them 29th in all of baseball. And the 15 home runs that they have given up is the most in all of baseball. On the bright side, they are tied with the New York Yankees for most strikeouts with 72. In the series, Michael Conforto, boy, it felt like we just could not get this guy out. He was 5 for 13, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. Jack Peterson, 3 for 12, a home run and 5 RBIs. After Thursday's game, Grifol said, every mistake we made, they squared it up. I don't know if that's who they are or they came in hot. I'm not sure. We'll find out. That's what I want the White Sox to be doing, capitalizing on mistakes, mashing a pitcher's mistake. You don't get too many of them usually, and you got to make them count, especially when you have runners on bases, runners in scoring position. That's the type of offense I want the White Sox to become. They absolutely jump all over mistakes. So hopefully we will find out and see what this team is made of very soon. That was an ugly, ugly homestand. Offensively, the White Sox had a different lineup. You had Jake Berger, who was, of course, brought up because of the Loy Jimenez injury. Alberto was in the game. Romy and Zavala. First inning, Andrew Vaughn with a walk, and Jake Berger with a 2-out double, a 116 miles per hour exit velocity. That's up there as one of the hardest hit balls in all of the season so far. Second and third, 2 outs. Alberto getting the start, of course. He flew out to center. In the second, Sox had something going here. Tim Anderson with a 2-out, 2 RBI single, cut the lead, 4-2 San Francisco. Robert kept it going with another base hit, but that was it. Fourth inning, White Sox with first and second, nobody out. Starter Alex Wood removed for a right-hander. We had some situational hitting here. Tim Anderson struck out. Robert flew out to right field, and then Andrew Vaughn picked them up. Took a slider that was on the outside corner to right field to score Zavala. Real nice piece of hitting. It was 6-3 Giants at this point. Sheets pinch hitting for Berger with a right-hander on the mound. He walked, so you got the White Sox with the bases loaded. Hanser Alberto missed a mistake. Again, this was a mistake pitch that San Francisco threw. He missed it, eventually flew out to left field. Sox offense on Thursday, 6 runs, 11 hits, 3 extra base hits. Sox were 4 for 13 with runners in scoring position. Sox scored 3 of their 6 runs off of a position player. So don't get too excited by those 6 runs. Through 7 games, the Sox are slashing .287, .341, .434 with a .775 OPS. That puts them 11th in all of baseball. Sox are first in the major leagues with 20 doubles. We got more information on Eloy Jimenez and his situation. Also some outstanding news for Liam Hendriks and his family. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by So Rare. Our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. So Rare recently partnered with MLB All-Stars Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez to serve as brand ambassadors. Both are featured in So Rare's current brand campaign and will engage with the So Rare community throughout the season at MLB events. Head to SoRare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards. Set your lineup and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's SoRare.com/lockedon to start playing today. Got some news and notes here. Pedro Grifol said Yoan Moncada's day off on Thursday is not related to fouling off a ball off his foot on Wednesday. It was just managing his workload. They definitely could have used some of Moncada's offense on Thursday, but it might not have mattered since it was a 16-6 loss. Grifol also stipulated that Oscar Colas is not a platoon player and will start against Rich Hill on Friday. Eloy Jimenez said he played catch and ran on Thursday. He added that if he were available, he would be ready to pinch hit. He is not available, was not available, can't be available. But Pedro Grifol said they'll be reviewing his day-to-day once his minimum 10 days on the IL are up. This was Eloy Jimenez on his injury. I don't know how to describe it. I felt something, and then it started getting like a little bit worse and worse. But in the next 2 days, I've been feeling way better. I consider myself a positive person, but when I need to talk about all this, it makes me not in a good mood, he said. But this is your job, and this is my job to answer questions. It is what it is. I think we are not going to be talking about injuries this year anymore. End quote. I'm sorry, but I can't believe that. I want to believe that. Okay. Very high on Eloy Jimenez coming into this year. He's going to be mainly a DH. He might see some time out in right field. We saw what he could do in the second half of the season last year as a primary DH. The sky's the limit for this guy. I had this guy at 40 plus home runs, and maybe he catches fire. Maybe he can actually do that. But I'm torn now. Do I continue the head and the heart game? My heart is with Eloy Jimenez. I want to believe you. I want to believe that we're not going to be talking about injuries anymore this season, but my head is telling me a completely different thing now. I have to listen to that, fool me way too many times. And sadly, just running the bases and doing something to your hamstring, I mean, you're susceptible to anything at this point. So again, like I said in the previous episode, I'm going to curb my enthusiasm for Eloy Jimenez a bit. I got to wait on this. That was 5 games in, and we're already talking about injuries with Jimenez. It's not the end of the world, of course. We've got a ton of baseball left, but not a good sign with his track record. So this is what Grifol said. We want to make sure that he's healthy when we get him back on the field, completely healthy. And I guess you can get clearance from White Sox trainers, medical staff, all that. But if he is an injury prone guy, we're unfortunately going to be having this conversation, maybe around Memorial Day or something. Hopefully he stays healthy for his bobblehead giveaway. What is that? May 12th, 13th, something like that, around Mother's Day. That would be nice. Hopefully he's in the lineup for that. Again, I don't want to make light of all this situation, but I have to just kind of tap the brakes a little bit. I think personally, for me as a fan with Eloy Jimenez, I came into the season hot. This, talked about him, quite a bit to everybody that would listen, as this is going to be the X factor. And I'm just really, really concerned now that he might be an injury prone guy. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. Maybe he will be back before 2-3 weeks. Luis Robert, on the other hand, he's been on the field. He has been looking good defensively and offensively. Heading into Thursday afternoon's game against the Giants, Robert Jr.'s .8 WAR was tied with Shohei Ohtani for the MLB lead. Robert has added value to the White Sox in just about every phase of the game. At the plate, he's slashing 333, 333, 630 with 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and 5 runs scored. On Thursday, Robert was 1 for 4. But it's nice that you could just you see him continuing to just, have some good at-bats at the plate, chalk up some hits and what he can do in the outfield. Man, those were some bright spots to this home opener. Liam Hendriks, talk about some bright spots on Wednesday. Hopefully you saw this video and you've probably read all about it already, but Liam Hendriks rang the bell indicating the end of his final chemo treatment for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He posted the interaction on his Instagram. Next step for Hendriks is ramping up the process to return to the White Sox. When I saw that last night, it was emotional for me, Pedro Grifol said. Just to see anybody ring the bell, it's emotional. To see one of your own ring the bell and be emotional himself, for me personally, it was emotional, and it was emotional in our clubhouse. Absolutely awesome news for Hendriks in his family. Lucas Giolito has had some historic success against the Pittsburgh Pirates, but that was a long time ago. Sure feels like it. Giolito will try to help the White Sox get back on track. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on anything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, we got a 3-game series here. White Sox in Pittsburgh. I made that trip a couple years ago, the last time we were there in 2021. Beautiful, beautiful ballpark. Had some fun in downtown Pittsburgh. One of my favorite ballparks aesthetically, with that bridge out there. Beyond, obviously, the outfield wall. You can see it when you're sitting behind home plate. Not much to look at when you're sitting in the outfield looking in, but there's some really nice sight views. Had a good time out there in Pittsburgh. Friday, Lucas Giolito is against Rich Hill. Yes, that Rich Hill. Lucas Giolito has a 1-0 record with an ERA of 3.09 and 28 strikeouts in 4 appearances against the Pirates in his career. Obviously, that no-hitter that a bunch of cardboard cutouts saw in August 2020. Giolito's last start against Pittsburgh was in 2021. He went 4 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs. Houston racked up their hits against Giolito last weekend, but nothing was hit terribly hard. In Giolito's first start of 2023 against the Astros, he went 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and 2 earned runs. This was Giolito after the season debut. It's hard to say I'm pleased with how I pitched because I didn't get through 6 innings. I liked how the ball was coming out, how the pitches were. Missed a few times, got away with some, didn't get away with some. That's how it goes. The big thing going into the next outing is pour more into the zone, be efficient, and get weak contact. So look for that on Friday with his start. On Saturday, Mike Clevinger against White Sox legend Vince Velasquez. We'll see how that goes. Clevinger had a pretty nice start. A lot of movement on his pitches against Houston. Hopefully, we've been seeing these second outings by pitchers haven't gone so well. Cease had a battle. Lynn looked really bad on Thursday, so we'll see what Giolito looks like. Hopefully, Clevinger can turn in a similar performance against the Pirates on Saturday, and then on Sunday. Wow, Michael Kopech, he's back on the hill, hoping for a much better outcome. And I am hoping, and I know you are as well, hoping for a series win at least against Pittsburgh. Don't want to fall under 500 by too many games. Things start slipping away and it becomes a tough task. That was something that I think happened with the 2022 White Sox teams. You read some quotes over the offseason, and obviously all the things that went wrong, anything that could go wrong, did go wrong. And several players saying, look, when we started turning a corner, we were behind, and we had to struggle to make up so many games. And, a game here, a game there. Sometimes you get out of May and into June, you're like, wait a second, we're 6 games back, and so that's the thing that I want this White Sox team to avoid is, not giving away games, trying to steal a few here and there when you can. Hover a little bit over 500 would be nice for the first 2 months of the season. Don't fall too back in the AL Central right now. Minnesota's playing pretty well. Their pitching is really come on, and Cleveland's obviously hanging up there. We've got Minnesota. We got Minnesota soon on this schedule. So, look, play some good baseball in Pittsburgh. If you can forget this quickly, that would be ideal. And there's really forget the whole series. That was a very bad homestand. White Sox pitching, they have to stop giving up home runs. There were some weather issues for sure. The wind did not help out, but we had that advantage too. We could have been clubbing the ball out of the ballpark. We had like one home run, I think I saw in the entire homestand. That's ridiculous. Sox have to hit more home runs, stop giving up the home runs, and looking for Giolito to do what he had suggested. Keep it into the zone, pour it into the zone, get some weak contact, and really going to be watching that Michael Kopech start on Sunday, see how he looks in that rebound game against the Pirates. Folks, thank you so very much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcasts. We are on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Pass that along to other White Sox fans in your life. I do appreciate that. For your second listen, hey, check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the very best in fantasy draft strategies. Find the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On the next episode, I'll recap the weekend that was for our White Sox, hopefully talking about a series win in Pittsburgh. Really appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.